We got involved, first of all, we were one of the lucky schools who was offered the 100 meg line into the school, and we were delighted to get it. But I suppose the line came into the school, but perhaps we didn't have the wherewithal as to how best to use it. So it was only really after a matter of time, and with our connection with the digital hub, we sat down and we kind of examined how could we use this line to really improve teaching and learning for all of the students in our care.
Since our wireless network was introduced, I've seen a lot of changes in my students, definitely. From my discussions with them when we broached the subject first, they used the internet for social media. That's what their common footing is, and they're very apt and they're very capable, but they hadn't related it, I suppose, to independent learning, to independent research. And the big change I've seen since the introduction of using our wireless network is our students now are equipped and confident enough to be able to take on a task autonomously and be able then, within that autonomy, to do their own work in their own time and present it in a manner that's apt to them rather than apt to me.
It's handy because even in class, if you don't understand a word, or like in French, for example, we're always allowed to use Translate to do it. Like if the teacher might be working with another student, like we can just look after ourselves and stuff.
Working with the wireless networks have given our students an edge of confidence. But I think more so than confidence, what it's given them and what will equip them as future learners is autonomy. I think the more we can equip our students to teach themselves, and the more we can equip students to access the wealth and plethora of information that's out there, then we're really equipping them for the real world. We're sending them out capable of learning beyond the constraints of somebody wanting to teach them and being only limited by their capacity to access this information themselves and the desire to do it. If we can foster the desire, then I think we'll foster lifelong learning in them.
I think for teachers this has opened up a whole new way of interacting with their colleagues and indeed with the students. We're lucky with the ICT grant that we got from the department that every classroom now has its own computer and data projector and everything else. So in the past, teachers would have had to book to go into the computer room. They no longer have to do that. We have a series of laptop trolleys that teachers can wheel in and out of the classrooms to use hands-on with their students, which is really, I think, the way to go. And we're currently looking at the whole idea of bringing your own device into school, and we have a little pilot project working on that at the moment. So I think in that way it has opened up lots of new avenues for teachers.
From a teaching point of view, I suppose it challenged us as a staff to up our pedagogy for some of us that have been out of college and out of the loop of learning for a long time. So it did take time, and we're still continuing that in service. That continual professional development is something that needs to be ingrained hand in hand with the idea of an introduction of Wi-Fi access within a school, because if you're going to use it, you have to use it right.
I think schools without Wi-Fi are at like an extreme disadvantage, especially like in these times when like technology is really at its peak and it's grown like.
I suppose I don't want to sit here and I don't want to be naive and preach that the introduction of the use of a wireless network is going to be plain sailing and it's going to be all perfect, because it most certainly is not. When we began here, we had a number of problems, the first and most paramount of which was the infrastructure that we possessed.
I think the biggest hurdle to overcome was, I suppose, really looking at our infrastructure. And it was only when we began to look at implementing the wireless that we realised we had huge technical issues, particularly around our server. So it took a long time and a lot of expertise to get to the bottom of the issue. But once we managed to employ the right technician, we were well on our way to using wireless to the very best of our ability.
I think it would be a disservice to say to somebody, yeah, you're going to get this wireless network and it's going to be great. You're going to get this wireless network and it has the potential to be great, but it does involve an awful lot of infrastructure, work, negotiation. If you're going to do it right.
I think in the past there was a tendency among schools that you'd have an ICT coordinator in your school, and part of their job was to fix all the ICT issues that might land on their desk. And I think we've moved so far now, it is impossible to expect a teacher to take that on as an additional role within the school. I know as a board we sat and we discussed this issue at length, and I think it's absolutely imperative that every school has the ability and the funds hopefully provided by the department to employ a technician. In our case, we employ a technician one day every week for half a day, and I think it's very reassuring to staff. They know if they have an issue, the technician will be in. He also operates a remote system, so if they have an issue they can email him directly, and he has remote access to all of the hardware within the school, so something can be fixed immediately, or if not, they know he's coming. And I think if we're really serious about pushing ICT, we have to have that structure in place, both the technician and the funding, which I think is crucial.
It's changed the attitude of students and the skill definitely, as well as my own attitude towards technology. It's kind of made them more active in the classroom, as well as they actually want to do it, they want to do the work, whereas no one wants to go in a classroom and listen to a teacher speak for 40 minutes, whereas if that teacher comes in and tells you the first 5 minutes class, today we're going to watch videos on how cells multiply or whatever, you're going to be more interested in actually seeing it happen with documentary, listening to someone else talk about it. So students they enjoy that more because it's different.
If we want to make them not just learners but lifelong learners, then we need to equip them with these skills, and we need to put them in a real world scenario now where they're not just taking things in but they're giving things out and they're becoming part of a discourse, not a passive recipient of it.